everyone, and welcome back to the channel for today's video, which is a color and chat. You voted for Romantic Country, the first book by Eriy, and this cozy library page next to the old rose tea room. I will be using my Prismacolor pencils, 1, because I know they work great on the paper, 2, because I have an injury and it makes it a bit more difficult for me to color, so I have to use some soft coloring pencils so I don't have to battle with the pencils and make my injury worse. Before we get started, grab your copy of Eriy, the first tale from the land of Cocat, Romantic Country, and your coloring pencils, and let's begin this one. Well, as I have just said, I do have an injury. I went to the doctor a couple of weeks ago, and it was a new doctor, and she was really, really nice, but she didn't quite know what it was, so I went to the doctor again yesterday, and my worst fears were, well, they were real. I have gotten a tennis elbow, although I haven't played tennis. But, you know, tennis elbows stem from overexertion of, you know, the hand and the fingers from coloring so much, and the pain is right here, sort of behind and on the outside of my elbow, so it really, really hurts there. So I am going to have some physical therapy, and well, of course, my doctor said absolutely no computer, no coloring, nothing. I had to do absolutely nothing with my hand and my arm for the next 1 or 2 months. And I mean, I'm right-handed. I can't just not do anything with the hand. So my doctor wanted me to try physical therapy and see in about a month or 2 before he would recommend medical treatment. I mean, my husband had it and had medical treatment, and it helped at once. But, well, apparently we have different doctors. So, this means that I may not be, doing as much color and chats as I want to. I mean, I have to prioritize. I've had to say no to more body coloring colors with friends, because I can't really do them as much as I wanted to. But I have promised you this one, so we will just do it nice and easy. And in bits. So we have some baskets up here, and I always think of baskets as sort of red brownish, perhaps a bit darker. So I will certainly begin with my sienna brown. I mean, you can hardly see what it is. I just know it because they are in the same places, and I can see it says cyan, so that must be the sienna brown. Well, I think I will just use a sienna brown to get some color down here, and also on this one. I mean, these drawings don't have to be as intricate as people perhaps want them to be, or think that they should be. The reason why we are doing an Eriy coloring is because, well, it's amazing to color in Eriy books, but also because I do have a lot of viewers, and just have to, I'm not quite sure I want to use it there. Let's take the burnt ochre. I have a lot of viewers, as I said, that they haven't really colored in Eriy because they are a bit intimidated by the pages. So that's why they haven't really colored in Eriy. So I promised one of them, Steph, that and said to her, well, I think when we should do an Eriy the next time we do a color and chat. And then we had a vote, and the majority of people voted for the first book. I also think that's because the first book of these Romantic Country books is a book that most people have. So I'm still using the burnt ochre. And here you can see I just color on top of the lines here. I think that we will need the sienna brown for a little bit here. And then you can see I just color on top to make it a little bit more dark. I actually think that I want to use the mineral orange for this one. A bit more burnt, I think just, yeah, burnt ochre. So this is actually a situation that, pardon my language, sucks. Really, really sucks. And I am certainly not satisfied with it. This is still the mineral orange. I think this is completely annoying and irritating, but I guess that this is you know, what happens to a lot of us when we color a lot. And also I just happen to sit by a computer quite a lot also, partly because of my work being a teacher. I don't know about other countries, but in Denmark we have so much things digitalized, so a lot of the things I use in my classes is online portals. Okay, and that was, sorry, that was a goldenrod. And this is the yellow ochre. Yeah, it says yellow ochre there. So we just add in some, you know, more light colors. Yellow ochre. So it's, well, it's just really, really, really annoying that this has happened. But, you know, I have had signs about it for, well, a couple of months actually, where I can, you know, feel that my elbow wasn't quite the same. And it's really annoying because my left elbow is absolutely all right, but it also means that I have trouble, you know, doing things with my elbow in, well, at least certain movements. I really can't do them anymore. So, let's just color this a little bit of the same with some sienna brown, some burnt ochre, taking it a bit in here. And also, you know, coloring is a lifeline for many of us. Helps me unwind and relax. And I mean, if I had to go 2 months without even touching a pencil, I think I would go nuts. Absolutely nuts. Oh, did I forget the goldenrod over here? Well, and the last one. Let's make that a bit darker and fewer colors. So sienna brown for that. And a bit dark up here. And of course the burnt ochre. And then just a little bit of the mineral orange. So for these baskets, I mean sienna brown and burnt ochre, mineral orange, goldenrod, and yellow ochre. And well, you can hardly see the numbers of the pencils, I think, but that's because they are so worn, these pencils, that all writing and numbers are practically worn off. Now, I have always imagined this room as being a room inside of this Old Rose tea room. And if you read the text about this page, it says Old Rose Cafe and Fireplace Room. The small tea room features a variety of roses, and we can see it on the other page, with petals used in tea and scones, and a fireplace to warm you on cold days. So it really is just as I thought, that this room with the library or all of these books and the fireplace is a part of the Old Rose tea room. Okay, so just layer and color to your heart's content with those baskets. And I think that we should try to tackle this, all of these bookshelves here. When you have such a room filled with a lot of things, perhaps it's best not to use, a ton of different colors, because then the total image will be very confusing. So I think that I will just choose some colors for all of these wood, also for the frames. So a couple of colors for that, and some colors for all of these books, the binding of the books. So I think that the burnt umber, this is actually burnt umber, and also the chocolate and the light umber, which is even smaller. Perhaps that's why my hands hurt when I color. Would be some very nice brown colors, perhaps even also the dark brown. And now come to think of it, for the wood. So light umber and dark umber and chocolate and dark brown for all of this wood. And let's just pick up some colors, because then I can, talk more easily when I have picked up the colors. I just have to, I just have to find my, oh, it's over here, sorry. Just have to find my color family chart. I think that, old leather-bound books, they always have some, dark colors, like some dark brown or dark blue or red or green. So if we look here, I think that the Indian Throne Blue, not a color I use a lot, I think that would be quite good. Here it is for some of the books. So Indian Throne Blue as the dark blue color for the books. Then we need some green colors. If we want to do it sort of greenish brown, then we could do a marine green. There's a bit more green in that than the moss green. So I think marine green, perhaps coupled with a Prussian green for some more green. And then some very dark red. I think that Tuscan red is a beautiful color for these books. So, and perhaps then I could also use the dark brown for some of the books. Yeah. Okay, so let's start here. And let's start with the lightest color, the light umber, in the middle of this bookshelf. This also leaves room for us to use a darker brown color on those branches in the vase. But on the bright side of all of this, with me being injured, and what do you do as a colorist then? I do think it's wonderful that the exams are all over, finished, completed, and I am very, very proud to tell you that my 9th grade class that I have had in English since October 1st, 8 of the students got an A in their English exam. I am so very proud of them. Really, really proud. Let's take some dark brown up here and down here, and a little bit of chocolate just beneath the dark brown. So all in all, they did very well. No one failed their test. It was an oral exam. And as I said, 8 of them got an A, and I had a couple of people, they all got a B, and then a lot of C's, and then some D's, because, well, not everyone is as good at learning English as others, but they all passed their exam. And considering that I have only had them for a little over half a year, I think it was quite a good result. Let's do the dark brown here to get a contrast with the lighter wood. And also the exam in physical education is completed, and I am also happy to say that no one failed that. We did have a couple of A's and some B's and a lot of C's and then some D's, but I'm really proud of them, and I am also extremely grateful. This is still the dark brown. I am so grateful that that exam is completely over, because it has been, well, really hard for the past 2 months to have all of this physical education, extra lessons with them and guiding them and prepping them for that exam. It's a huge exam. And they have to do, well, they had to do, you know, 2 different, we take the chocolate here, they had to do 2 different programs depending on what they had drawn for their exam, dance or basic body knowledge, and do different exercises, and then they had to do another program with a lot of exercises depending whether or not they had drawn athletics or, you know, playing with balls, you know, like football or handball or volleyball and so on. So, or physical training. You could also do physical training. So I really am so happy that it's all over and that it went well. And I must also admit I have been quite tired after that exam. The night before the exam, I woke up and I couldn't sleep. I think that if some of you viewers are teachers or former teachers, you will recognize that as soon as you have students, your own students, and they are going to take their exams, well, the teachers are also always, you know, sort of affected and can't sleep and all that. So this is a rocking chair we have here. Okay, so I'm just, you know, sketching out the basics of this wooden bookshelf. And perhaps it's not as tidy as I usually do it, but when I layer and blend, it will be nice to look at. So just to recap, light umber in the middle, surrounded by chocolate for this part of the bookshelf, here, and all of these wooden boards. Oh, that was the rocking chair. So I think we will give the rocking chair a completely different color. Perhaps purple or something. Could be nice with another color. Or it could also be sort of white to match the chairs outside in the garden, perhaps. Okay, so, and when are we going to use the dark umber? Well, I will use the dark umber to lay some shadows down when I'm done layering. So I will definitely lay a line of dark umber here, and definitely use the dark umber to create some shadows and make this background, you know, in the shelves darker, definitely darker. As you can see, I have now finished coloring, and I will just show you how I do these shelves. So I take the dark brown and add a layer of dark brown. And to get a little bit more of a color and more glow, I use the chocolate on top. And now behind the books. So let's take this one where we can see what we're doing. So we take the dark umber. And just color a little light layer of dark umber, and then we take the dark brown and again add just a little light layer of this dark brown. And then we can add just a little bit more of the dark umber in the corner. And then we have the light umber. And we use the light umber to blend and add a bit more of a lighter brown color. And then it's just a matter of layering to your, well, heart's content. But just make sure that you do have a bit of a shadow in the corner and at the top. And then all of these books. And as I just said, I want them to be a mixture, because when I look at a bookcase like this, I always see my grandfather's bookcase before my eye, and he had a lot of books, and they were all bound in leather, and they were all either dark blue or dark red or dark green, and some of them were brown. And that is why I will use the Tuscan red, Indian throne blue, marine green, and just to spice it up a bit, Prussian green, for these books. I don't think I will use any dark browns, because, well, we have all of this brown on the bookcase, so there's no need to, you know, add more. You could also see that we do have different sorts of binding on the books, and for that I will probably, because usually when it's old leather bound books, it's some sort of gold binding, so I think I will just use a gold glitter gel pen for that. Like this hybrid jewel metallic from Pentel. So it's just a matter of, you know, choosing a color. This is the Tuscan red, very dark red. And coloring a book with it. Let's use the Tuscan red on this also. And then you can see my point here with the gold binding. Just add a little bit. But this looks more like some, not gold binding, but some sort of, you know, perhaps a little bit of a lighter sign with text or something, and it could just be, you know, in a different color. So I think that we will use the 10% French gray for that. So we do get a little bit of color here, but it's really not that disturbing. These are some bottles. Looks like that they have some signs or badges on them. We will also just use this 10% French gray for that. Then we have the bottles themselves. I think that they will just have a, you know, let's take the powder blue. I think it looks like there's some kind of fluid in there, and then some plants. Maybe I'm not correct. I do think it looks like some sort of fluid. So we will just take the burnt ochre. No, like some corks we just have in these, and then I think that we will. Well, since I have it, the marine green, as I said, there's no need to use a ton of different colors on a drawing like this with all of these details. It's okay for some of the colors, you know, to be the same for these plants. And then I think that I use the powder blue, so let's use the blue slate for this fluid we find in the bottle. And then if you really want to, you know, you can use a white Posca pen or gel pen to make some, you know, details like this. I always do this when I work with glass. We need some reflections in the bottle, and to just blur out the outlines here. And then, of course, you can take a black gel pen and just draw the outlines of this little sign there. And more books. So let's color this one blue. And again, some gold. And let's color this one with the Prussian green. And then you can just take the gold and do this, and perhaps a little gold here and there. And let's use the marine green for this one. So you see all of these books, you can just color in these different colors. You could also choose, you know, to color them all different sorts of blues or reds or green, or perhaps use pastel colors. It's really up to you what you want to color, well, or what colors you want to use for all of these books on this bookcase. Then we have, I think this is a plant. So let's give it a, and again, we don't need to, you know, use a ton of different colors, and we know that it's in some earth here, and then we just take the Prussian green. And then if you want to, you know, add some glow, then you could take a lighter sort of green, for example, the apple green, and color on top if you just wanted, you know, a little bit more of green, also as a contrast to the books. Then we have some string. I think that we will use the 10% French gray for this, and then we could go with just a tad lighter red. We have the Tuscan red here, so we can use raspberry as a red color. So it's, you know, still dark, but not completely. Yeah, and so on and so forth. So you can also see we have some photos here. So let's make it a lovely frame. Let's take the goldenrod to create a lighter sort of frame for these pictures, just by adding the goldenrod. And then use the yellow ochre. And then, of course, you can color the motifs here. So now that we are using these colors, I will take the Prussian green, and then I will take the apple green I just used for the plant up here, to add a little bit of life to the grass on this painting or photo. Then we can take, this is probably some trees, a little wood. We can take the marine green and color this one. And of course we have the Tuscan red. Let's use it for the roofs of this castle. Also here, and we have the blue slate. Can add a little bit of the blue slate for the sky, no, just a tiny little bit, and then we can use the powder blue on top. And then we have these very nice clouds. And we will, of course, just use the white Posca to make the clouds. We'll probably need a couple of layers to cover the lines, or perhaps it will be fine with just one. And then perhaps just a darker color for this castle. Let us take the 30% warm gray. Okay, and then you can use the black gel pen to just, you know, so we can see some windows, and you can also add windows in the towers. And then we have the cat. So that raspberry red we can use for a nice little bow. And let's give this cat a green background. Let's use the apple green to make it a lovely green background. Now it could be out and about playing, this cat. And then we take the sienna brown and we take the burnt ochre and color the rest of this cat. And then the black gel pen for some eyes and whiskers. Okay, so all of these colors you can just alternate to do the rest of all of these books, and color the backgrounds of these shelves that they are on. So let's move on to some of the other things here. Let's do some of these frames, and I think that we will not be wrong by using for these frames the goldenrod. And the yellow ochre. So of course I'm just laying the colors up for you. So I think that again I want to, you know, minimize using tons of different colors. So all of these frames is I will color with these two colors, goldenrod and yellow ochre. So now for the motifs. Well, I don't see why we shouldn't be using some of the same colors that we have used. So we have a painting or a picture of some bread. Probably because this belongs to Old Rose Tea Room. So let's use the sienna brown for these baguettes and just give them a hint of a darker color. And a little bit of burnt ochre. And well, that's it. So let's use the mineral orange for these buns. A tiny bit of this goldenrod, and then let's use another color like the sand for the top, so we get a lighter color up here. And then this must also be some sort of a bread. So let's use the burnt ochre to give it just a little bit of color and a little bit of the goldenrod, and then we take the yellow ochre. So we have some lighter bread here. You can see we have some signs, again the 10% French gray in the middle, and then around it, well, let's use the Tuscan red to give it a little bit of color. And then these baskets could just be, you know, you could alternate with the different colors. Let's take the sienna brown and then the burnt ochre. And that was it. And let's take the burnt ochre here with the mineral orange. And you know, you can just switch these colors out to some that you like better, but I do think it gives a nice sort of a round feeling to it. So let's use the gray color. That was the 30% warm gray for this lamp up here. And then we have a light. So let's use, I think the canary yellow will be too dark. So let's just use deco yellow. And let's use the yellow ochre and sand for this bread basket. And then we have a little background. Let's color it a pale powder blue, just to, you know, add a little bit of a background on this photo, painting, picture. I don't know, but now it's colored. And well, we have some flowers here. So you can just, you know, continue with these with different sorts of colors for these paintings. I think that the powder blue will also be a nice background for this picture. See through, and then for the water we take the blue slate, and you know, we have these green colors, so let's take the Prussian green, have some leaves here also with this one. Let's take that raspberry red we have already used for the tulip. And I do want some of the colors from the other page to come over here, and I did use a lot of pink and lilac and lavender, so I will just take the pink and add that here. And so on and so forth. For these apples we can use the apple green, and you know, if you want just a little bit more color, you can add a little bit of the Prussian green, and perhaps again give it a nice pale blue background with the powder blue, and use one of these, and right now I can't find it, dark brown or burnt umber. And then we have something that it's on. Let's take a nice neutral color like the 10% French gray. And that was that picture. So just use those colors. Then we have some candles. We use a canary yellow to add a yellow glow, and then of course the deco yellow to add a little bit more of a glow. So for these candles not to be completely white, we could add a little bit of some cream, so they are not completely white. These candles are, so is this the candle holder or what? it's a bit difficult. You know, some candles, they have sort of different sorts of patterns. They're not just straight up and down. I have absolutely no idea, but I do think I will just use the warm gray 30% for these, and also for these. I have absolutely no idea. Let's say the candle holder is up to here, and then we have the candles here. The fireplace. So we have a mantelpiece in the background, perhaps made of some sort of stone, and then we have the fireplace here, probably perhaps in some other material. I would really like to use some of the colors from the opposite page with the Old Rose Tea Room from the outside, these sort of pinkish bricks, and the lilac and lavender and pink colors, and also the white. So I think that I would like to make this mantelpiece in these colors: clay rose, rosy beige, and then a little bit of pink rose. So let's start with the clay rose, because that is the darkest color of these. So we need to lay some shadow down. And also a little bit of the dark color down here. And I am not sure if there is a, if it's, you know, this behind is part of that mantelpiece, or what belongs to the real fireplace out here. So I just think that this is the fireplace, and all of this is the mantelpiece, including here. So we cannot see the wall or the wallpaper behind. So let's just try to add a little bit of this darker clay rose to this piece. Here, back here, we have some sort of wooden panel, I would say. Then we take the rosy beige and color on top of the clay rose. And also color a bit on top here. And then you just lighten the pressure a bit. Use the rosy beige for these, and don't forget to color down there. And then we use the pink rose to just give it a little bit more of some color. And then use a light layer of the rosy beige. And use the pink rose on top. And then just add the pink rose in the middle. And then we take the clay rose and then also, or just yet again, the rosy beige, and begin burnishing the color. So you use the rosy beige again to burnish the color here. Add just a little layer again of the clay rose. And color on top with the rosy beige. And then use the pink rose for the final touch here. And finish off with the pink rose. And use the rosy beige yet again. And again. And finish off with the pink rose. And use the clay rose to add a bit more of some shadows here. And then you can take the white, just have to find it. To add a bit more highlight where we had the pink rose. Okay. And of course we have the mantelpiece. So let's take the rosy beige and finish the mantelpiece and the clay rose in the middle. And if you want a little bit of more shadow, you can use the chestnut. And when you have done that, then you can take the rosy beige on top to, you know, just sort of blend the darker color in. And of course you can also add a little bit around here, and again use the rosy beige to blend the darker color in, so you can still see the darker color, but it will not be dominant in the drawing. And yet again. The fireplace itself, I think we need some gray colors, and it will have to be the cool gray colors, so, and also the black. So we will be using the black, and of course I will just take all of the cool gray colors up, because I don't know how many of them I'm going to be needing. So all of the cool gray colors. So I do think that this sort of, well, it looks like a sort of chimney, will have to be dark, and also we have some dark down here. I don't think we will use the lighter of the colors, so 10, 20 and 30 will not be used. I think what we need is some very dark colors, because usually a fireplace is just exactly that, dark black usually. So let's take the black and color some of it black, but not all of it. I think that the doors should be framed by the black. And also this on the doors. And well, it looks like we have some sort of I think we will also color this one black, and here, but otherwise I think I would prefer it to be more of a darker color, because I want it to be a little bit black here at the edges. So let's use the 90% cool gray. For this one, and also up here. And I also think that we need the black here. But instead of black, you could also go for some gold around the edges if you wanted to. Okay, so the 70% just so it's not completely dark. The 70% cool gray. Let's color the doors. I think that this is the panel we can see down here. So let's use the 70% of the cool gray down here, and then the 50, to get some light or lighter color on it. And for the doors, so I'm just laying down a little layer to show you the colors. I think that we will use the 70% up here. So that is sort of the fireplace, and then we have and I do think that the chimney will be black. So I'm just giving it a base layer of black, because before I color it completely, I will probably do the wall behind it. But here I have color, so I might just as well, color it black down here. And here we have a little sign of some sorts, so I think that we will take the 70% cool gray. So black, 90% cool gray for the outlines, black for the doors, 70% cool gray and 50% cool gray. And that sign will have to do something about it. And then the firewood here, we have still some of the brown colors. So I will just, give it a little dark brown. And then the fire. And now we do have to have some, we can begin with a little bit of some, that was not the right color, a little bit of some poppy red in the middle. And then we will take the pale vermilion, just a tiny bit, and then of course orange. And then we will have to go with the yellowed orange and Spanish orange. So yellowed orange is here. And Spanish orange, which is a little bit more of a yellow. And then you can just, blend the colors. But usually when we have such a fire, it's darkest in the middle and then it gets lighter when you go out. As you can see, I have colored something off screen. I have finished the pictures on the wall, just like I said, and still used the same colors over here from the bookcase with the blue and the green and, the mineral orange from the baskets and so on. The only color I added was the pink color, and that is because the other page has quite a lot of pink color and lavender and lilac, so I wanted to bring some of the pink color over here on this page. The pink color we can see again in the flowers, together with the apple green and the Prussian green, the dark brown, and then the lilac, lavender, lilac again. I just used the black gel pen to add a little bit to the lights. You can see I have colored this, and I have added highlights here and there on the baskets and the frames of the pictures, and also on this fireplace. And the cats, I chose to color them gray with the lighter cool gray colors. And add a pink ribbon here. The same colors from the baskets and the firewood down here on this basket. And the wallpaper is colored with the Deco Pink, because that's a very pale pink color, and I just wanted a bit of the color on the wall. The rocking chair, I used the lavender and the lilac. Then I used the 10 and 20% cool gray and white on top, and then a white pen to outline both the table, which was also colored with the 10% cool gray and then the white. So the chair is a little bit darker than the table. The panels down here, white, and then white Posca for the outline. I just need the line down here, but I haven't colored the carpet yet. So this carpet, I thought that we could just use the lilac colors. You can also see I've used the lilac and the lavender up here for these different sorts of cloth or whatever we have in the basket. So down here, I just use the lilac. And again, this is because I have colored the other page with these colors. If you haven't, then you are free to use whatever colors you want. You could color this one gray, for example, the mantelpiece, and use blue colors or whatever. I will use the pink. And I don't really waste any time layering here. I just color, because I know I want these colors in this blanket. And then the great lavender. And also the white, which I just had to sharpen. So the white on top. And then, of course, we need to have some shadow. So we will take the 70% of the cool gray, just adding a little shadow underneath the cat. And if I can find it, which is a little bit difficult here, just have to sharpen it. The 90% cool gray for that extra shadow just beneath the cat. And we have a little bit of shadow there. So now all that's left is the floor, the blanket down here. I think that I will be using my blush pink because I haven't used this, and then I can use the white to make it a bit paler, and then just use the lilac for the rest of the blanket and cover this with the white outliner. And that's it. Then we are completely finished with this page. As you can see, the page now is completely finished. The color choices I made for this page were partly decided because of the opposite page that I colored last year, and that is why the walls and the chair and the carpets down here is very light, and I have used pink and lilac lavender colors. But of course you can also choose other colors for this. I am, however, very satisfied with the result of this page. I think it's really nice, and I think that the mantelpiece is especially good. So I hope that you enjoyed this color along. Please give it a thumbs up, a like. It really helps my channel. I hope also that you got an impression that it's not that difficult to begin coloring Eriy pages. So just grab your coloring pencils and get on with coloring the pages in this absolutely wonderful book. I can tell you there will be more colorings in this book on my channel in the future. So until I see you in the next video, have a lovely day. Take care of yourself. Happy coloring. Bye.